Sure enough, an old man in a robe walked over to me with a smile. He pointed to the sun that was about to set and then to the temple on the top of the mountain, signaling me to hurry up and come back before dark. I hastened to thank him for his kindness and began to walk toward the hill. Thousands of pottery shards cover the entire site, a spectacular and well-preserved pottery mound of this scale that I have only seen in a few sites in the western desert of Egypt. As mentioned earlier, during the Roman rule of Egypt, the caravan trade flourished along the road of Darb al-Arbain, and in order to ensure the safety of the caravans and collect taxes, Rome garrisoned troops throughout the western desert. The army brought the Roman way of life and protected and prospered the long-distance trade that prevailed over the desert trade routes. At that time, at least 2 battalions were stationed at Kharga and Dakhla oasis, each with 500 to 1,000 men. Roman soldiers in the army were stationed in various fortresses along the oasis trade route. Local soldiers recruited in Egypt and hired Bedouins patrol desert trails. As long as soldiers are stationed, soldiers need to be provided with goods that meet their needs. The Roman soldiers stationed here needed to drink every day, and the 2 legions consumed about 3.5 million liters of wine each year. The large area of pottery mounds around the fortress made up of pottery fragments is a testament to this. There is evidence that Dush existed as a small town in southern Egypt before the time of Ptolemaic. Judging by papyrus documents dating back to the 3rd century found in the area, as well as archaeological evidence that has just surfaced, the site is clearly very important. Dush's name in ancient Egypt was Keshet. Known in Greek as Kaisis, it was in use until the end of Roman rule in Egypt. Kaisis was once a very prosperous community, where merchants traded with caravans passing through it in north-south and east-west directions. Potters, jewelers, blacksmiths and other craftsmen also gather here. During the Roman period, Kaisis also had children's schools, brothels, and a gym, as well as restaurants serving delicacies and fine wines made from high-quality oasis grapes and delicious cuisine. Farmers cultivated fields and raised poultry to provide the region with produce and meat, some of which, especially grain, were loaded onto caravans and exported to other communities in the Oasis and Nile Valley, and perhaps to the Roman mainland. Unfortunately, in the 5th century AD, as the Roman Empire weakened and the Roman legions stationed in the western desert withdrew, a series of towns along the route of Kaisis and caravans were gradually abandoned. Above the hill in front of me stands the ruins of a mud brick temple. This is also the most striking view in the line of sight after arriving in Dush. But if you think it's the famous Dush temple, or if Dush is left with only this mud brick temple, you're making the same mistake as me. This mud brick temple was the 2nd temple in Dush and was built around the end of the 2nd century. 200 meters to the east of it is the main temple of Dush, which is connected with the huge Dush fortress. The Dush hill is 79 meters above sea level. When you stand at the foot of the west slope of the hill, your sight is blocked by the hill. It's easy to dismiss this mud brick temple as the only building here. Only when you come to the top of the hill will you see the Dush temple and fortress on the east slope of the hill. Both temples are built on a north-south axis and have rare vaulted domes in their sanctuaries. Both temples are surrounded by mud brick walls. Unlike the mud brick temples on the western slopes, the Temple of Dush on the east side of the fortress is larger and built of sandstone, and the walls surrounding the temple are still well preserved. It forms a complex with the Dush fortress, and the temple has a separate entrance to the fortress. Dush Fortress is the oldest building ever found at the site, dating back to the Ptolemaic era. The fort is a rectangular space framed by solid mud brick walls. After more than 2,000 years, its broken city wall is still as high as 6 meters. The features of its walls reveal that the fort went through 4 different periods of construction. The fort is not only large in scale and complex in structure. In addition to the structures above the ground, there were also 5 floors underground. Because I had limited time and wasn't sure if the structure of the fort was safe, I just walked around this huge fortress as much as I could, without exploring the underground floors. The most important building in the entire site is the magnificent sandstone temple in front of you. Although there are indications that the Temple of Dush existed in Ptolemaic times, but its traces have been hard to find, and the existing temple building is due to 3 famous Roman emperors. Firstly, the Roman Emperor Domitian ordered the construction of this sandstone temple dedicated to Osiris between AD 81 and 96. It is presumed to be on the site of the original Ptolemaic temple. Later, Emperor Trajan ordered the addition of a courtyard to the temple in AD 117. Finally, other parts of the temple were expanded by the order of Emperor Hadrian. Although the temple is less decorated than other ancient Egyptian temples in the Nile Valley, the interior of this temple has a reputation for being once covered in gold. Although the gold is long gone, stone carvings of Roman emperors offering sacrifices to the gods of ancient Egypt are still legible on the sandstone walls. On the back wall of the temple, some plaster paintings survived. The main gods in this temple are Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Of course, in Greco-Roman times, these ancient Egyptian gods also had other names, such as Serapis, Isis, and Hippocrates. Having said that, you may be wondering why the second temple was built on the west slope when there was such an ornately decorated and magnificent sandstone temple. In my opinion, with the prosperity of caravan trade on Darb al-Arbain, the flow of people here has increased dramatically, and the demand to go to the temple to offer sacrifices to the gods has also increased. Due to the security defense of the fort and the class division of the crowd, not all pilgrims are eligible to enter the sandstone temple inside the Dush fortress to worship. Therefore, it is reasonable to build the second temple on the western slope outside the fortress to serve the needs of ordinary people and even black slaves. The Egyptian government promoted development projects in the western desert in the 1960s and 1970s. As an important heritage in the western desert of Egypt, the Dush sandstone temple was restored in 1967. The Temple of Dush was built in Roman times, but its planning and architecture are similar to those of temples built in Ptolemaic times. The temple consists of several areas, including 2 pylons, 2 courtyards, a small hypostyle hall with only 4 columns, and a sanctuary. The sanctuary, or we call it Holy of Holies, is the oldest part of the entire temple, and the farther it goes out, the later it was built. At the same time, in terms of the area of each part, the farther the outer space is, the larger the area is. For example, the first courtyard is larger than the second courtyard, and the Holy of Holies is the place with the smallest area, which also shows that only a few people are qualified to enter the Holy of Holies.